Welcome back to another KindaFunny's MCU in review rewatch. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by the Big Daddy himself, Greg Miller.
Hello, Tim. Let's make a show that they'll remember in Valhalla.
The Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
He's pointing at the screen. He's presenting this really well right now.
You know what? I've been half-assing it for 3.5 years, but it's full ass today, boys.
Ooh, we're getting a little Greg Ragnarok. How do you feel about that, producer/seducer Nick Scarpino?
Oh, Fat Five right there, Tim. We're ready to rock and roll.
Oh, right off the bat, we're bringing in the Fat Fives. I like that. That shows that Nick truly is keeping it real.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's the real Greg? What was it? The Real podcast?
Yeah. For those that maybe for some reason didn't watch Thor: The Dark World in review rewatch, which I highly recommend to everyone, what did they miss out on?
We decided we invented the new keeping it real scale. Kind of funny. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We replaced review scale because you guys said there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough definitive stuff in the review scale. So you can either be an one, that's a one. That's not keeping it real, or a fat 5 because you're keeping it as real as possible. Yeah, you're a real G.
And if you're watching this or listening to this right now, you're a real one for sure. Okay, I'm telling you that you're a pure Fat 5, and I love that so much for you. Of course, this is.
I'll take you back, Tim. I'll take you back, Tim, to Wednesday, June 22nd. We recorded that there re-review of Thor: The Dark World at 5:14 p.m. Work was done. Everything was over. We're at 5:14 p.m. Nick slacks me. The reality meter is the best thing we've ever come up with. Andy, Tim just don't fucking get it. And you guys don't get it. One, that's you two.
How does it feel, Andy? It's me and you here, all right? I guess we're alone in this.
Just a quick question for someone that hasn't seen the content and probably won't watch
it. The reality meter from KindaFunny.com recognizes the one and only Kevin the Glue Coella.
Is it a 2 scale thing of like it's either 1?
We were gonna have other ones, but then we got cut off by Tim, and he didn't want us to do it. So it's you can either be 1 or a fat 5 on the reality
from
scale.
The feedback that you got that was like, hey, there's not enough.
That's right, Kevin. That's right. The
people were like, all right, let's cut it down to either good or bad.
God,
right.
Exactly.
This is KindaFunny's.
That's a fat 5 of keeping it real.
KindaFunny's in review, where each and every week we rank, review, and recap different movie franchises. If that sounds enticing to you, guess what? If you have a favorite or least favorite movie, chances are we have done all of those things to it. You can watch them on youtube.com/KindaFunny or roosterteeth.com. You can also get it as a podcast by searching your favorite podcast service for KindaFunny in review, and we'll be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free and watch live as we record it, you got to go to patreon.com/KindaFunny, just like our Patreon producers, Molecule, Fargo Brady, and Gordon McGuire have done. Today, we're brought to you by Athletic Greens, but I'll get to all of that later. In reviews popping off. Screencast is popping off right now. If you're an entertainment fan, you should be following KindaFunny. We got Miss Marvel weekly reviews over on the Screencast side, and soon enough, we will be adding Miss Marvel to the illustrious MCU in review rankings as well. But before we do that, next week, we will be doing our Thor: Love and Thunder in review, which is really exciting. I cannot wait to see where that one falls on the scale. But before we get to the future, we must go back to the past. Thor: Ragnarok, released on November 3rd, 2017, with a runtime of 2 hours and 10 minutes. Now, thinking about that release date, it's another one of those interesting ones where it's nuts how long in between iterations of franchises have been, right? Between Thor 3 and Thor 4, it's going to be like 5 years. And like, sure, COVID was part of that, but Doctor Strange had a similar, like, wow, that's a girthy spot right there. Guardians is coming up as well with that. But
I thought you were saying that's a fat 5.
Yeah, that's a fat 5. I'm just keeping it real. Just keeping it real.
Don't try to get on board with it now, all right?
You know, I won't. That was a move of me for sure. Anyways, this is directed by Taika Waititi, the GOAT. who is also directing the upcoming Thor: Love and Thunder and the next Star Wars movie, which is really exciting, whenever that actually happens. The music is done by Mark Mothersbaugh, who is just the homie beyond homies. If you don't know, he's the guy that did the Rugrats theme song. He's also the lead singer and producer of Devo. So if you ever heard the song Whip It and you're like, I like that song, and then you watch Thor Ragnarok, you're like, I like that movie, probably makes sense. It all adds up. This one had a budget of $180 million and a box office of $854 million. Andy, I know that you love this movie. I know you've rewatched this movie more than you've rewatched most of the MCU movies. I think that's fair of all of us. But you in particular always talk about Ragnarok probably being your favorite of these. What rewatch in your mind do you think this is for you? And what did you think about it?
This is probably rewatch. I don't know, Tim. Maybe like either the 7, 8, maybe 9 around there, based on just the amount of times we've done an MCU rewatch. This movie just everyone. I'm still finding new things to laugh at. There's still new lines that crack me up. The old lines are still cracking me up. I still really don't like the green screen in the Norway scenes. Pretty awful there. But for the most part, I think we are getting the newer look at Thor from that. We're shaping Thor from here on out, right? This is Taika's vision of it. And Thor's humor is just a fat 5 for me, Greg. Like, I think the
Nick,
back.
Well, you know what, Nick? Let's let Andy in, but Timmy's got to stay on the outside, all right?
Great.
Tim
I
has
think-
to earn it.
I think the back and forth that Chris Hemsworth has with Mark Ruffalo is just fantastic, and I love obviously the addition of Korg. I think Korg just immediately became a fan favorite, and not only just the humor, but holy shit, the cinematography, the photography of just. You know, we always want to pop off and show you a really cool side shot of the dragon chasing Thor from that far angle, or Thor coming down with Led Zeppelin popping off, or even Carl Urban doing some shit, and we're going to make it look dope as hell. I think this movie just kind of hits all the notes that I want out of an entertaining movie. But yeah, again, I keep on just finding newer lines to really crack up at. And this time it was, he's freaking gone. when he says piss off goes, and piss off goes obviously always gets a laugh, but when he finally disappears, he goes, he's freaking gone. It just gets me every time. This movie is fantastic. S tier for me.
The line that got me this time was the behold my stuff, and this woman just goes, ooh. Craig, what do you think of this one?
It's interesting. Andy and I don't align on many things. Of course, I'm on all the right side of histories. He's on all the wrong sides of histories. But this is honestly, I think, the MCU movie I've watched the most as well. Like in terms of rewatching, it's one of those movies that I put into. Stick with me, Nick. I know you'll have my back because, of course, you're a real one. You're a fat 5. But Tom Hanks in Big. Whereas when Big is on, when you're channel surfing, you will stop on Big and just let it play from wherever you are. And Ragnarok's in a similar position, except that everything's on demand now. So if I need background, I'll often put Ragnarok on. Or when COVID was really kicking everybody's ass and we were all super in lockdown, they were doing drive-in movie theaters down on the water at the bay. And when they did Ragnarok, that was Jenna and I went to a couple, but The Bodyguard. Come on, Whitney Houston, remember? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, this one, because we both love this film so much. And so, like, jumping back into it is always jumping into such a comfortable and familiar, warm place. But then also, like, I'm with you that there's always something new that makes me laugh in it, right? And it's always, today, this time around, watching again, right? It was, the old standbys of how great Jeff Goldblum is. But just, like, the deliveries, and we've called them out before, and I know, Nick, how much you love it, of like when Tessa Thompson touches his face and then he does that thing and looks off. But then just a couple laughs he has in there that are genuine laughs that they just left in the fucking film. Yeah. Where he ends his line and then he starts cracking up and they just leave it in there because it works for what Grandmaster should be, right? So to be able to go through and watch this film and always find something new to enjoy it, always be there. I still, if I'm talking about a line that always cracks me up, it's when Hela is in Asgard and she presents to everybody who she is, her entire story. And then the guy with the mace just like, I don't know who you are or where you came from. He's like, wait, you don't know who I am? All right, fine. And then goes and kills everybody. Like, what a fucking film. It's like watching it again and listening to it again, right? Again, the use of Immigrant Song, how great it is in general. But like, I cannot wait for Love and Thunder. I've not been obviously radio blackout on it because it's our job, but I haven't paid close attention to a lot. So I feel like I'm in for a lot of surprises, and I'm stoked about that.
Nick Scarpino, what are your thoughts on Thor Ragnarok?
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about rewatching this. I don't think I've rewatched the movie start to finish more than 3 or 4 times, maybe 3 times max. But when I fired this up to watch it again, I was like, oh, maybe someone else was watching this. I don't want to interrupt him. Then I was like, wait a minute, this is my Disney Plus. And then I looked at where I had stopped last time, and it was right after the scene with the immigrant song. And I'm like, oh, this might have been. This is top 2 moments of any MCU movie. It probably gets beaten out by the amount of times I've watched the Avengers Assemble moment, but this moment is so pitch perfect in this film. And it's made even more so still because I forgot this film has the immigrant song in it twice.
Yeah.
I forgot it actually has it in it twice. And I was like, oh, right. He used that at the beginning, and I was like, that's really cool. It's a good use of Led Zeppelin. And then he just was like, that song's so great and so perfect. We're just going to bring it back in a third act. This movie's it's unique and fun for so many different reasons, but really it's the first time we found Thor. This is the first time I think Chris Hemsworth and a director and really found this character. And I think in a lot of ways they took cues from Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man in that maybe Taika Waititi was like, you know what, Chris, you're kind of a goofball. Why don't you just be that? Why don't you just be the goofball? Like same way that Robert Downey Jr. is pretty much just Tony Stark. They found it here. And it's important because I think you need that character, because other Thor from the last movie was just, I don't want to see him anymore. I don't want to see that character again. But this Thor I'll watch over and over and over again until the day I die.
Yeah, I mean, Thor Ragnarok, like there's nothing more to say. It is actually a perfect MCU film. Like this is everything we could ask for. And I think that, rewatching this is definitely one of my most rewatched. I was shocked we were thinking about it. Like this is Gia's 5th time watching this movie, and she happily watched it. And it's because I think this is one of the most watched for us because we watched it in theaters. It was before we did in review, and then we watched it for in review. Then we watched it for this rewatch here. We watched it when her sister did her whole watch for the first time, and it's just that good. Where Gia does not like rewatching movies, and for this, she's like, I am so in, and was watching and compelled the entire time. And it's because it's the perfect a little bit of what Andy and Craig were saying. It's just the perfect, this is on TV, I'm going to start watching from wherever it's at and enjoy the hell out of it. Like every moment of this movie is entertaining, whether it's entertaining in a way that's making you laugh or visually blowing you away, or the super fun action, or really kind of like hype emotional speeches and things. Like I think that a lot of the dialogue that they give to Odin is like corny. I feel like so much of this movie is so corny, and it's only Taika that can get away with it. And he pushes the line so far of things that would not be funny if anyone else were saying it besides the people on the screen at that moment. Like he has this way of writing for these actors and these characters that makes the most obscene, weird, like the whole hammer pull off thing, right? Like I just don't think that joke would have worked if it was read by someone else, right? It being Taika and interacting with Chris Hemsworth, like there's just like a real magic to it all. And I think that the movie surprises me because if we took out what Nick's talking about, the immigrant song second reprise, which is one of the greatest moments in the MCU for so many reasons, right? It's the speech leading up to it. It's the visuals of the whole fight. It's the whole team coming together. It's Loki smiling, like all of it's so good. But if we took that scene out, I still think this would be a top tier, S tier movie with some of the best MCU moments. Like this thing is just constantly bookended with hype and insanity that is earned. This movie is so great that the awesome, hilarious Doctor Strange scene is something I would forget's in this movie, right?
There's so much of that in this where you just forget it.
So much. Yeah. And it's so surprising to rewatch it and still feel surprised. You know, here I am on my probably 10th rewatch of this, and I'm still just like, oh my God, I'm finding new things to love about it. And it's just such a pleasure. It's such an entertaining movie. Like this might be one of the most entertaining from top to bottom movies I've ever seen. And I can't wait to keep rewatching it more. I hope Love and Thunder is even better. The complaints I have about this movie still remain. I don't think I'm ever going to get over them. I don't like how the Warriors 3 went out. I think that despite how they were in 1 and 2, but it's an unexpected that I feel like was only in favor of my second problem, which is Hela's cool as hell. I hate her story. I hate her just kind of being shoehorned in of like, oh, there's actually this whole other story you guys didn't know about.
Right.
I get it. It all adds up. I really would have loved if Hela had been something we had known about for other movies and just teased and kind of like finally got her here, because her reveal for how big it is, her coming in, fucking up Mjolnir, like killing Odin, all that stuff. It's like, it just happens really, really fast. And then there's a lot of exposition that leads to her doing dope stuff. So I can't complain too much, but I do think that that's something that I hold against this one. And then, the last thing is just the green screen that Andy's talking about, but I can get over that when there's a couple bad green screen scenes. And for every one of those, there is the Valkyries flashback story. That is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen on film. So,
and also I think the green screen moment, the infamous Norway sequence is made so much better because Anthony Hopkins' dialogue is corny and cheesy, but it is so well delivered, and
he's crushing it, dude. Not to mention how he crushes being Loki in the front.
That's the best part.
That's so true.
Fucking Anthony Hopkins, like what an actor, fucking having to act as if he's Loki. So goddamn good.
Yeah, and that's I mean, God, all the cameos in this movie, all the favors they pulled to get like Sam Neill in it, the other Hemsworth,
Matt Damon.
Unbelievable. And I want to touch on, I mean, Tim, that is probably the only critique I have in the movie too, is that they sort of were like, we have this character of Hela that's kind of not set up that well. She's one note, but we do have Kate Blanchett. And Kate Blanchett's kind of incredible. So it'll be fine. And it was fine. And I think she did better than anyone could have done with what they gave her. But I do wish that her motivations weren't just like, I want to just keep killing things. Because after a while you're like, that's not fun. And it's just not as entertaining as like, setting up that character through 2 or 3 movies like you're talking about. But I do want to give a quick shout out to, every time I watch this movie, I see little things in the production design and the art direction that just like blow me away. And there's one in this specifically when they get to Sakaar, is that what the name of the world is? All the colors, it's like there's like 3 or 4 colors that they use pretty much throughout everything. And when Thor gets knocked through the barrier wall in the gladiator arena, and he grabs that big fucking like sort of hammer looking thing, the arena itself is reinforced by these octagonal like steel pieces that are the same colors that you're seeing throughout the world. So like someone was like, no, they gotta have a little pop of color there because that's the Grandmaster's like color scheme. Just little shit like that. And then also the outfits and the ships that are actually kind of under designed in a way. Like the Commodore ship looks sort of like it was designed in like with a really, 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 really good budget in 1983. That kind of look, Yeah. But if they lean into that, it's just all that stuff makes this story just seem really larger than life and fun. And then just shout out to the fact that somebody else on this planet finally recognized that the Willy Wonka boat sequence was totally inappropriate to put into a kid's film.
It's so inappropriate.
Yeah. We're going to get into the entirety of this fantastic film. But before we do that, let me tell you about our sponsors.
This podcast is brought to you by something Tim literally uses every day. AG1. Tim's birthday is June 30th, and he decided to give himself the gift of taking care of his body with AG1. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things! Tim mixes AG1 with his water, loves the taste, and says he's feeling better than ever. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews, and Athletic Greens is a climate neutral certified company. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/kindafunny. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/kindafunny to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutrition insurance.
He is the thunder down under. This is the plot for Thor.
Do you want me to go higher right there, Greg? Or
Yes, please.
No, I was just with you going up with you.
you want me to do one of those? I can do that.
You crushed that.
That's going into the third verse,
Yeah.
Thor Ragnarok, ladies and gentlemen, tell me, brother, what were you the god of again? Gotta love that. Oh no, Thor's in a cage. How did this happen? This is your first. This is just your first indicator that this is not going to be your mom and dad's Thor. This is a brand new Thor, and this character is goofy as shit and having a great time. Of course, Thor's in the cage. He has his dead body there. He gets dropped in front of Surtur, who has dreamt about, who he was having nightmares about. Rather, that's why he's gone after him. And the nightmares are all about Ragnarok, which is the fall of Asgard. Pretty funny part where he's spinning maybe done one too many times, where he's like, hold on, wait, as he's spinning around and then comes back. But whatever. I mean, I'd rather them shoot for the stars and fall short a couple times here and there. Surtur is going to put his crown in the eternal fire, which is down in Asgard's vault. And when he does that, he's going to grow as big as a mountain, destroy Asgard. And then, but he's like,
as big as a house? No,
it's
a mountain.
And he's like, well, Odin's there. And he's like, Odin is not on Asgard. And Thor's like, huh? And then he goes, you can't stop Ragnarok. Why fight it? And Thor says, because that's what heroes do. And then, man, he calls in Mjolnir. And to this day, I still hold that these are some of the best sound effects they've ever come up with. Him like spinning it and then throwing it. And we get that great shot following Mjolnir as it's going around in a circle, just slamming all of these CG characters that you couldn't care about.
And the top-down shot, very reminiscent of Yondu's arrow sequence. We see the top-down shot of the hammer kind of going through everybody. Really awesome.
I mean, this whole scene it's incredible because it's so funny. It's so well choreographed. It does what I love about Marvel movies at their best, which is like, cool. They have these heroes have these specific weapons or powers. What's the coolest possible way to show them? And like, this is the answer to that. We've seen Mjolnir do a whole bunch of things. And even in the bad movies, in Thor 1 and 2, it's like, there was some cool uses of Mjolnir. This though, like they just started off, and this is a perfect example of like, I love that the second Immigrant Song is the moment we all talk about, but this first Immigrant Song moment is truly special and worth rewatching on its own.
It's pretty incredible. You also have the punctuation of just the fun of when the dragon chases him upstairs. Well, he grabs the crown from Surtur first, like smashes his head and grabs his crown, ties it onto him like a backpack with the chain that he was tied up with. Tries to call from Heimdall. Heimdall's like not having it, so he climbs up to the thing as the dragon follows him, and then he pins the dragon down to the ground
in
by
his
just
mouth.
putting Mjolnir in his mouth.
And it's that thing where you
Which is
immediately feel
insane.
bad because the dragon sounds like a hurt dog.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, not Draggy.
Of course, eventually we cut back over, and it's not Heimdall anymore, who's manning the Bifrost. It's Scourge,
Butcher,
played by Butcher, Carl Urban, of course. And Butcher's just hanging out, entertaining two ladies, and he wants to show them his stuff, specifically his two machine guns, Des and Stroy,
from Texas,
which is the stupidest joke ever. Like, that is a joke
really
that I would
is.
do, and everyone would just be like, we're done. That's the last joke we're going to do on this podcast. But it's Carl Urban saying it, and it's hilarious. Of course, Thor eventually comes back, and everyone gets splattered with the decapitated dragon goo as he makes his way over to Odin. He's like, where's Heimdall? And he's like, well, Heimdall's a traitor. And he's like, oh, I got to go find Odin. So go over to Odin.
I have to announce you.
Starts running down the bridge.
When he gets there, of course, he finds a massive statue to Loki, and then he finds a play that's happening that Odin is basically narrating because he's either memorized it and or it's coming straight out of his brain. Of course, Odin is Loki at this point, and we get great cameos by Luke Hemsworth, who's also very jacked, and Matt Damon, who's just. This was the season of Matt Damon cameos. You'll remember that, right? Mm-hmm. It was like the 1-2 punch of Matt Damon randomly popping up in Inception or Interstellar,
The Martian,
and then this.
Oh, yeah,
that wasn't random.
Yeah, The Martian wasn't so much a cameo. It was more that he was the lead character
in a movie where he was alone pretty much the time.
Great film, though. Everyone should check it out.
Great movie.
We also get Sam Neill, of course, who's the actor. That was he's in this as well, which is great. Great sequence.
But even just the set design of this and the choir that are singing the song from Thor 2, like it's just so well done. Like they got something special, man.
Thor, of course, knows this is Loki and makes him reveal himself. And they head back to New York to pick up dear old dad, the old folks' home, but it's been demolished. And Loki's like, I don't know where he is.
But real quick, another one of like such a great cut. Again, like you're at this point, we're already established that this is not your usual Thor movie, let alone Marvel movie, right? But just the cut of them, boom, like in New York and it being demolished, and then the cut back to them in street clothes, him holding an umbrella, fucking Tom Hiddleston in a painted-on suit, looking fucking insanely good. You know what I mean? It's just that like I fucked up. I fucked this up, and I don't know what to do.
And I also just again want to call out in the prior sequence, Anthony Hopkins going, "Oh shit!"
Oh, and grabbing his
good.
head. What a great cool
So
move.
good. I will say both characters look good, of course, when they come to Earth in their Earth garb, and I like the. I'll just say I like the boldness of the wig they put on Loki in this. I think it was. Some people would say like, "Hey, let's do a subdued wig, like make it not look like a wig," but nah, not Taika Waititi, not this team. They went full wig, and I, for one, support that. As a newly hired advocate of big wig,
Wow.
this gets my stamp of approval.
Wow, you completely turned around on all of this.
Yeah,
This
That's
is
a
shocking.
shocking one if I
enjoying
ever
it.
heard of one. You ain't keeping it real.
Wow.
And this was not only the summer of Matt Damon, this was the summer of Tommy Wiseau, because James Franco was going to be starring as Tommy Wiseau in the Room movie, the what's it called? Artist something, or I forget that that biopic that they were making
The
on
one
it or
about the
whatever.
room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the artist, I believe.
It was called the
Disaster
artist. Okay.
Artist.
The disaster
The
artist.
disaster
Disaster
artist.
Disaster artist, you got it. Yeah.
And the wig that both of them wore,
Same wig.
shockingly similar. So there were
Same
so many scenes of Loki because we're used to, Loki. Watching this movie, I think I was just so used to Avengers 1 Loki with the slick back hair and the kind of flip at the end. But suddenly it became this long.
It's a bouffant.
It's a bouffant. It's very curly and very large. Yeah.
It's too much.
I'm so used to the Thor 1 Loki. I'm still not over the ha. The staff.
You want that.
I think about that multiple times a day, you guys.
Of course, as they're there, Thor. Everyone knows who Thor is. I love this, by the way. I love that there's no like hiding the fact that he's Thor. A group of young ladies run over to him, take a picture with him, and then one of them just says, "Hey, sorry, Jane broke up with you," and that's
Dumped
all we
you.
get. Yeah, dumped you. And then, of course, before they know anything, Loki gets sucked into a portal from Doctor Strange, and then he just finds that Thor just finds the card that just says Bleecker Street. And this is the part we guys talking about. I was like, I totally forgot Doctor Strange was in this movie. I'm not quite sure why he's wearing these incredible riding gloves, but why has he
hate
never
them.
worn them again?
I hate the gloves.
love it.
I love it. I
See,
wish
the
you
thing,
did,
the thing I love about it is I love that it's not what he has in his own movie. I like that it's just him in the comics accurate shit for a cameo that is like more comedy based than anything. Like I am so happy that this is part of a Taika movie because I feel like Doctor Strange is, especially now that we've seen a couple more movies, way more established as a character. But here, this was the first time we got to see kind of some levity from him because we had only seen him in the first Doctor Strange movie, which is a bit more played serious, right?
Yeah.
So with this, I love the constant cutting of teleporting
So
around
good.
the place and like with all the
Stinking.
drinks and all that stuff. Like it just gave Doctor Strange like this comedic edge that I think really worked for him. And I love this use of cameo in this type of movie, and Taika's the king of it.
Again, the
Cortez.
gloves though, too much for me. The gloves just look like maids' gloves that I'm washing dishes with. Like that's all I kind of get out of that vibe. But it looked like if he just was washing dishes as they kind of stumbled upon his house. But not only all the cuts, Tim, but there's that one sequence where he teleports Thor again. And Thor's like half rolling down the stairs.
Down the stairs.
He's getting sicker and sicker every time they do it. Yeah.
That gets me every time. It's such a good comedic fall.
Really good. I was gonna bring that up too. That's one of my favorite parts. I don't think yeah.
It's
Anyway.
like such a half stumble, and it's like you gotta have good comedic chops to fall funny, and that was a good ass fall.
Yeah.
It's just enough. Like the thought of it is just enough that Doctor Strange did it just to be a dick, just to troll him. Not enough to hurt him. Not enough to annoy, just a little bit to annoy him on that fifth stare. What's
Real
up?
quick, about speaking of being a dick, I need to apologize to Tim. Earlier today, there was a lot of conversation if he was one or Fat Five keeping it real.
Wow.
And I thought for sure it was an one. And I put it to a vote in here on patreon.com/kindafunny for the people watching live. And 60% say he's a Fat Five on the keeping it real scale. So Tim, I apologize.
That's pretty huge for you, Tim.
Tim from Kind of Funny.
I just want to let you know that I was also in the chat on YouTube watching live on patreon.com/kindafunny. And I even voted myself at one. So damn.
The bad news is
I appreciate you.
The bad news is I have already ordered the shirts for me and Nick that say Fat Five. So sorry.
Maybe we'll have to wait for round 2, I guess. You know,
maybe next round I get it in there. We'll see if this bit survives to another week, and if it does, we wear the shirts. Maybe
Certainly
hope
not.
Done. Of course, it turns out that Odin this entire time he's been in Norway, and they're like, why didn't he come home? He's like, well, he wanted to be there, because when they go and visit him, he's fading. He is now coming. He's done with the Odin sleep. He's about to go into his final Odin sleep where he just turns into Particular, which is an After Effects plugin, and just
God
go
damn
off
it,
into
Nick.
the world.
you.
Sounds like a nice nap, though, Nick. You know what I mean? You
It
just kind of
does.
zone off for a bit, because like once you've accrued enough sleep debt, you're owed an Odin sleep every once
For
in a while.
sure, for
Can
sure.
you imagine how great?
Of course, before he says that, he's like, look, y'all have a problem. I didn't tell you about this in the millennium that I've been alive, but it turns out you guys have a big sister, and she is the goddess of death. And I used to hang with her a lot and teach her stuff, and we took over a bunch of realms, which is pretty much how we whipped everything into shape. But her bloodthirstiness was too much, so I locked her away. And guess what? Asgard's her power. So when she gets back, when I die, she's going to come back from this weird green land that I put her in, and she's going to kill everything. See you later.
I've got a here's the thing. We could change some of the mythology and we can go back and kind of retcon and change some of the story, because I think it'd be a lot more entertaining if Hela was an old fling of his. Because to me it sounds a lot cooler of Odin and like this old crazy ex-girlfriend, and they were just like two young kids in love, and they were just fucking things up all over the universe. And I love the idea of like, hey, stepmom's coming back and she's fucking wild. Like she's this crazy hot lady and she's really violent. And because there's a part of me that just kind of finds it weird that like Thor and his oldest daughter are going to go fuck things up. Because I wonder like how young was she? Like she had to have been like
Odin. You mean Odin and his young
Odin, yeah, sorry.
But like she could be 1,000.
Andy, this goes back to what I was saying a couple weeks ago with the Loki and Thor 1, where it's like, I get it. I know this is the mythology and I get that they're just going with what was already given to them. But like Loki turning blue and all this stuff, it's like you're adding these extra elements that I feel like take away from like what the core of the story and the characters are. And I think with Hela, I'm right there with you, where it's like, because these characters are ageless, essentially, like they live thousands of years, being an older sister doesn't have the same relevance that it does to us as humans, you know? So it's like it kind of just creates a weird dichotomy with Loki and Thor having grown up together as brothers, and then their older sister that could have been thousands of years older than them.
Yeah.
Right.
Because imagine if he was like, before I met your mother Frigga, I me and this lady Hela, we took the town by storm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think
we
that'd be
met
a
in
lot
this
cooler.
city in Midgard called Las Vegas.
Yeah.
We had a good time.
We got kicked out of like 4 Chili's and Applebee's. It was a mess.
In one night?
Yeah.
Wow.
We're no longer allowed at the
A lot of chicken crispers gone to waste.
Yeah. Of course, he tells
Have
her
you
before
ever
he
been to a
dissipates.
Bennigan's?
A long time ago, and I only really ever knew of a Bennigan's because in South Park, Butters really wants to go to Bennigan's in one of the episodes. But I think the Bennigan's back home was open for at least like 3 years, and then it closed down. It did not last very long.
Of course, before he dies, he says, "Remember this place, home." And then with that, he dissipates like Frigga did and all the dead Asgardians. And it's that. Pissed off, of course, Thor squares off against Loki, but they got bigger fish to fry because soon Hela arrives and Hela tells them to kneel before her. And Thor's like, I don't kneel before anyone. And he throws Mjolnir at her and she catches it and then destroys it, which would have been so dope if they hadn't shown that in every single trailer leading up to the film.
Yeah.
And we knew that was going to happen.
In
And
a different place.
What is it about some of the shots, though, that I think some of the shots look like they're on location and look really damn convincing? But for the most part, like 80% of those faraway shots just have that really fuzzy, fake, bad lighting sort of vibe. But some of these closer shots look really good and convincing. And part of me wonders, was like, did they have to reshoot some stuff? Or was it, there's a chance, it was probably all green screen, let's be real, but I think some of them just look really damn good. And I kind of wish all of them looked bad because I feel like that would lessen the impact of the bad shots.
It's funny because
from my understanding, it is all green screen because like the same shots are in the trailer, but they're in an alleyway. The exact, we see this whole sequence, but they're not on the green. In New York.
Yeah, it's funny because this one doesn't stand out to me because I think my brain says it's supposed to have sort of like a dreamlike quality because we revisit it again and he talks to his dad with different dialogue, so it's like kind of Force Ghost-ish quality to it. But the one that actually I hadn't noticed before until I watched it on my computer screen was the CG in that when he's fighting Hulk is terrible. The background just looks so bad and so fake in parts. But either way, anyway, back to the story. Loki quickly figures out the score and tells Scourge to bring them back, and Thor's like, "No, don't do that," because she needs to ride back to Asgard. And as they're going back up through the Bifrost, she basically punts them out of there. Loki first, and then Thor
Awesome
second.
effect.
Really cool.
Yeah, very
Awesome
very cool.
effect. Love the kind of glass shards. It reminds me of a movie we just mentioned, Interstellar. It kind of reminds me of like, yes, it's space and it's this cosmic sort of concept, but there's a physical aspect to it. And
Yeah.
breaking through that glass
It's a
shards
really
and seeing it all
tunnel.
kind of break down looks really awesome.
Yeah, very true. Of course, when she arrives, she promptly kills Volstagg and Fendrel, and poor Zachary Levi was like, "Well, that was it. That's all.
I'm out of the
that was my
movie.
Peace. I'll
stint
take my paycheck and see you
in the
later.
MCU." And then offers the cowardly Scourge a job as her right-hand man. Great soundtrack here. This is where the 80s synth sort of kicks in as we catch up over Thor as he lands on the junk planet of Sakaar. Scavengers quickly arrive to eat him, and he tries to call for Mjolnir, and nothing happens. You're like, "Oh, it's really sad." And then he just takes one of the
real
dudes
quick, Kev, can you bring up what I just sent assets at 13 seconds?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
It's more of a freaky circle.
Sorry, I just want to show you guys what I'm talking about with the alleyway thing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I guess I haven't seen this trailer in so long. Oh my
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
god.
it came out 5 years ago, which is
Wow.
just insane.
This is
So yeah, like, go
crazy
back
to
just
me.
a little bit.
Oh, wow.
That's fucking crazy.
That's totally what's that
Blowing
effect
my
called?
mind.
Where I would have bet you dollars
Bernstein.
for donuts.
Mandela.
The Mandela effect. I would have bet you dollars for donuts. I was like, the alleyway, no fucking way. But you were totally right. Holy crap.
That's
Yeah,
This,
so
keep-
this is
going,
the
Kev.
alleyway where there's the Spider-Man poster that says murderer on it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's the exact same shot that we see. just
Yeah.
with a different background.
Yeah.
That's a
Anyway,
really
sorry,
good
Nick,
pull,
continue.
Tim. That's a
Interesting.
really good pull.
So they must have.
Tim, that was a
Andy,
fat five.
Thank you, guys. I heard
He's
about
keeping
that
it
five,
real.
everybody.
Tim's fat five and over here.
We also
Jen,
never
call your
get this
parents.
scene.
Your parents. It's funny. And that must be why it kind of had that Bloomy effect, because they must have had to go in and roto everything.
Yeah.
That's weird. Anyway, back to it, of course. She kills them and heads out, and then Thor lands and grabs. They start fighting the scavengers, and he just takes one and hurls them into the stratosphere. And there is nothing cooler and funnier as a gag than he punches one dude, and the dude just goes down normally.
Jack, please leave your message. Thank you.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, Jack Quaid from The Boys. This is Greg Miller from KindaFunny, and Tim just got a fat five on the Thor Ragnarok re-review in review. And so, woof, you know what I mean? Let everybody know. See it from the mountaintops and ring that bell, Quasimodo.
I'm so bad for
Wait.
Jack.
Wait,
Already.
did Jack like why? A couple questions there. Do you call Jack Quasimodo? That's just question number one. Question number two: does he know anything about the five system?
No, not at all.
Not only does he not know
across
about
the
the
board.
Fat Five, I specifically on the podcast said, Jack, do not give Greg your phone number. He's
Don't
going
do
to
it.
call you. It's going to be the worst. And here we are. It's
I mean,
Valentine's
that's
Day.
like okay, so that's a little comforting that he was warned and.
Oh, man,
still.
Rahul tried to talk him out of it on Twitter, too. But
I
it was too
laughed
late.
so hard when I saw Rahul's tweet say, "Don't give him your number, bro. Don't do it."
Oh man. All right, back to the story. Of course, Thor's Valkyrie finally shows up, and she's hammered and interrupts the scene with her cool power gloves and just smokes all of them. I like and the machine guns and the thing back there just smokes everyone. And then she darts Thor and then drags him aboard her ship. Over on Asgard, Hela squares off against the entire Asgardian army led by Hogun, and she slaughters them all. And he gets at least a little bit more of some screen time than the rest of the Warriors 3, but he gets killed. He gets by a giant spike through his gut.
Do you wish that like her blades had like a green aura on them?
Yeah,
like,
that'd
I
be
wish
great.
they had like a green kind of like shing, like they look kind of like green flying lightsabers.
Well, I feel
Either way, I love her power set. Cool ass power set. I'd love to play as her in a video game.
I like, and I didn't
If you keep,
write it in here,
keep supporting Marvel's Avengers, maybe she'll be added soon.
that'd be- that'd
A
be
long
fun.
enough pause happened that I'm like, oh, Greg's not going to go for it.
I do want to call out, of course, that the sort of like the helmet that she puts on by like slicking her hair back. I love that
Badass.
effect. They use it a lot, but it's cool. It's awesome. I know. I think memory serves correctly. I think she hated wearing the thing that went on her head for that.
I
but
don't like that headpiece. It
I
looks
think it's
cool,
fucking
but then when you
rad.
fight, it looks funny. when she starts flying with it, like even when she's flying up after Thor and Loki, I was
He's just wicked looking. But
something wicked this way comes.
Exactamundo, my friend. She heads over to the throne as Heimdall steals the sword from the Bifrost and sneaks away. We cut over to Thor, strapped to a chair, getting the full introduction to Sakaar, and it is insane and set to the Willy Wonka theme, and it's fucking hilarious. And we learn about the Grandmaster, the creator of the Contest of Champions, and then it says you will meet the Grandmaster in 5 seconds. And right when it gets to about 2 seconds in the countdown, Thor starts to scream. Yes, it's terrifying. And then we stop and we see him for the first time. The Bloom himself.
Bloom.
Arguably, I mean, I think we could probably vote right now. Greatest character ever in an MCU movie. Maybe ever will be. He's
in an MCU movie, yes, but I do need to give a very specific shout out here, Nick, that you already know. But because of watching Thor Ragnarok, I was like, God, I love Mark Ruffalo. And Gio was like, Tim, have you seen 13 going on 30? Which she expected that I had seen, but I had never seen. So watched for the first time. Mark Ruffalo, pure pleasure. This relates nothing to the fact that then we're like, you know what? Let's watch Father of the Bride.
Yeah,
because
the new one with Andy Garcia.
Well, I was like, we got to go back. We got to do our own private in review. So we watched Father of the Bride Part 1 2 nights ago. Last night we watched Father of the Bride Part 2. Both of them utterly fantastic movies. 2 goes places you would never expect. Exactly. But what I will say is that Jeff Goldblum is one of my favorite, as Grandmaster, one of my favorite movie characters of all time. Only up there with Frank, Martin Short's character in Father of the Bride. And I just want the two of them to hang out. So just wanted to put that out there.
I don't understand why you made that a private one. I would have been on for a Father of the Bride in review, just like I would be for the Before trilogy, which I'm watching without you guys. And I really don't like that I have to do this without you, but I'm doing it without you. Also, real quick now that you've watched 13 going on 30, watch the sequel, The Adam Project.
Oh, I'm excited for that one. I will think of it as a sequel.
You have to. I mean, it's Jennifer Gardner and Mark Ruffalo.
It really checks out if you think of it as a sequel. It really does.
Yeah.
I have
that was what they intended.
It's a fun movie.
Imitating life.
I have a complete non sequitur. I think we should have a new segment of the thing. You
have a non sequitur to the non sequitur that we just went on.
The thing that Greg
makes a sequitur.
The thing that Greg messaged me last episode is the new segment. So I'm not going to mention what he just mentioned me right now, but in Thor: Love and Thunder, I will mention what he messaged me in this episode. So
nice tease, Andy. Good job.
Stay tuned for in review on that episode.
Perfect.
No, you're never going to remember. You'll never fucking remember.
I'm going to set a reminder, you son of a bitch.
I'd like to see you try with those fingers. I told you, Tim, I was coming at it and knocking it out of the park. And I'm Babe Ruth, and you're just throwing cabbages across the plate, man.
I do.
You're a 60-year-old plumber in the major leagues.
Throwing cabbages across the plate. You guys are out of your mind. I love it. Of course, everything Jeff Goldblum does here is freaking perfect, including when they bring in his cousin Carlo, the Grandmaster, decides to pardon him from life. And then they just completely disintegrate him into a goo. And he goes, "Oh, he's all over me."
Oh, I'm stepping in it. I'm stepping
in it. That's what he said. And this is, and I want to go back and just watch how this scene's cut, because it's cut in a way where it kind of mirrors how the rest of the world works, where it doesn't make any sense, right? They do this purposely where they kind of trick you and it's kind of confusing to your eye. So at one point they cut back to Thor and then he turns as we're in a completely different kind of section of the palace and the Grandmaster is just DJing.
Yeah, he is.
And
I love the fucking song that plays. It's like that.
You could tell that Mark Mothersbaugh just hopped on the synth and just it's so generic.
So funny. And then of course, as you guys all know, I don't like people that DJ after 30, but for Jeff Goldblum,
he gets a pass. I mean, I think once you pass the 20,000 age mark, you know what I mean? Yeah. Once you're about 30,000 years old, the Grandmaster is, it works.
That makes sense. It resets. Loki, of course, is there too, but he's doing a much better situation. He's conned his way into the Grandmaster's chambers, and he's one of the inner sanctum people. But it's weird. He's been there for weeks, and then but Thor just got there, and the Grandmaster clears it out. Says time works real different here. On any other world, I'd be 1,000,000 years old, but here on Sakaar.
So good. So good.
Doesn't finish the sentence.
Has there ever been a funnier thing happen in a movie? What the fuck happened there? And what the fuck happened that they're like, you know what? We're gonna keep it.
Hilarious.
We're just gonna keep it.
But see,
so good.
It's part of the magic of what Thor Ragnarok is. And to your point earlier, Tim, it's why I don't get hung up on the Hela stuff. If it was a movie that was taking itself in canon, like super seriously and trying to
Like the Dark World.
Yeah, I think I'd be like, oh, yeah, it is weird that Odin had this daughter he never talked about. But the fact that he's just like, oh, I'm about to die, and you have a sister, and she's gonna fuck everything up, and then she shows up to fuck everything up, and then reveals the paintings, and then like Grandmaster's just like, and here it's the. I'm like, I get it, let's go. Like, why on this world where he's collected all these misfits and things? How did he fucking collect the Willy Wonka song? I don't know. I don't care. Let's not think about it.
I'll tell you what else is canon in this world is the fact that Thor had a roommate back in Australia, and then the Grandmaster became his roommate later on in that third episode.
That's right. I forgot
So
about
like
that.
that's something
Those
I
shorts.
completely forget about. And then watching this again, I'm just like, God, everything Jeff Goldblum touches in this movie turns to gold.
So funny.
Bloom.
So then, of course they.
Aw.
So you
Sorry.
think this movie can't get any better, right? We've got Jeff Goldblum. He's going to be
Impossible.
this hilariously comic antagonist to Thor the entire time, and Thor, he's all by himself, and it's going to be great. I'll figure it out. And then they throw him in to the holding cell, which is a big circle with weird when time doesn't work the same way there. And we meet Meek and Korg, played by Taika Waititi, and he is incredible. And he, this is another line I always forget to have. He goes, "I'm made of rock. You don't need to be afraid of me unless you're made of scissors. Just a little rock paper scissors humor."
My favorite line in all this sequence is the only people who showed up to the revolution were my mom and her step or her boyfriend, who I hate. It's so great, dude.
Thor gets a little exposition he asks about the Grandmaster's champion, and Korg tells him, "Oh, he's like, you don't want to mess with this guy. Doug just fought him." And then he goes, "Hey, Doug." "Oh, Doug is dead." Nobody beats the champ, it turns out. Here, back over in Asgard, Hela redecorates the Grand Hall. We see the real history of how Asgard was built underneath it. You think he would just have that painted over, but I guess it's just cheaper to get a whole different facade put on that thing. She takes a little fire out of the eternal flame and jumps into the big old pit below her, where all of the army of the dead Asgardians and her big old dog are resting, and she pulls them back to life. Loki.
This scene right here is interesting because it's fun now to have the knowledge of what happens in the future movies. But I remember in between Infinity War and Endgame, there were so many rumors of like what could possibly be the plot of Endgame. How are they going to do this? And one of the most kind of believed things was that Thor was going to have to, with some time travel shenanigans, go back to Asgard and awaken the army for himself to use as the army against Thanos' army. Very Lord of the Rings type thing, Andy. That was for you.
Cool.
But yeah, it would have been dope as hell, but didn't happen.
I do love the fact that we see the vault that we've seen in the first movie, which is basically suspended over nothing, and then she burrows a hole through that, and there's actually something below it. I was just like, what a fucking cool pull on that one that was.
Yeah.
Let's see. We cut back over. All right. No.
Okay. The Hemba pulled you off.
Loki comes to visit Thor and talk him out of going back to Asgard. He's like, "Look, man, we can do really well here. In 30, 40 years, I can get you out of this, and we'll figure it all off." But then Thor's like, "You never like. I'm not doing that. I got to go back to Asgard and save Asgard." And then Loki, of course, is not there. He's just a ghost. And Thor does that thing where he throws a little thing through that. He goes, "It would mean a lot more if you were actually here." And he's like, "I'm not coming in there. It's dirty." And then he leaves. And then Korg has the banger laugh. Piss off, ghost. What does he say after that, Eddie?
Gone.
He's freaking gone.
The next day, Korg and Thor talk about Mjolnir, and then he tells him that Scrapper 142, he figures out that she's an Asgardian because she's got the tattoo there. He recognizes she's a Valkyrie and always wanted to be one until he found out they were all women. He has a little fun, stumbly line here where he kind of stumbles over his words there, and he tells her that Asgard is in danger. She must be a traitor, or either a traitor or a coward, if she's not going to do anything about it. And then he goes off to fight the champ. But before he fights the champ, thank God somebody on the Marvel side, a sleeper like me, a spy in the ranks like me, is working against Big Wig, because someone's like, can we just cut his hair and let him have a normal haircut?
But who should cut it though?
Who should cut it indeed? This character's the costume they have him in has to be based on something, right? It looks familiar to a degree, but Stan Lee, of course, is the cameo of the person that cuts his hair, and it's great. And God bless, and this is a perfect example of where Chris Hemsworth was as Thor and where Chris Hemsworth is. And he was like, he says something to the degree of like, you wouldn't dare cut my hair, sir. How dare you? And then in a second he goes, please don't cut my hair.
Please don't cut my hair.
Sir, please don't cut my hair. And it's great. And of course they do. And they smatter the big red on it. And his hair looks fucking awesome when they cut it.
He looks awesome.
He looks great.
It's one of those like it's supposed to look fucked up. It's supposed to look shaved into and all messed up, but it looks dope as hell. Like it just looks like purposeful chaos. Like think of like when you buy jeans with holes in them. That's what I like, but like cool ones. You know what I mean?
To Nick's point earlier about the production design, like with the colors and everything, like every single element of this movie has that. Like we've seen now that the two original Thor movies, like I kept praising them for their use of Loki's coloring versus Thor's coloring and how like they really played with that. With this, I thought it was cool that they kind of gave Loki a different type of color to deal with, where there was a lot more blue in his outfits to kind of tie him with Thor. And then with Thor, not just his haircut and stuff, but throughout the adventure so far, his outfit's been getting kind of ripped up, and like he lost half of his cape when he first got to Sakaar and all that. And like when we get with him now, it's like I love that we have these 90s action figure style different takes on these characters, and here we have like that's Ragnarok Thor, and like we know what that means, and it looks sick as hell.
The battle damage DLC.
Soon we're gonna learn about Love and Thunder Thor.
You can get that in a Marvel's Avengers team.
Cool. And we get our intro here, right? He enters the arena, and the Grandmaster, of course, fucking up his name. Instead of calling him the God of Thunder, calls him the Lord of Thunder. And he enters the ring, and he's got a new haircut, and he's great. And then you
careful, he's got sparkles on his.
Watch out for his fingers; they make sparks. It's so stupid. Then it's time to introduce the reigning champ and the undefeated, ladies and gentlemen. I give you your Incredible Hulk. Another thing that I wish had not gotten spoiled. But I mean, how do you not spoil this? But this is awesome because we hear the best line here where everyone's like, oh no, he's going to get killed. And of course, Thor is overjoyed and says, yes, we know each other. He's a friend from work.
Dude, this is incredible. And I've said this on a different show now, but now that we're back watching Ragnarok, at this point, probably a year ago, Gia's sister and her boyfriend had watched all these for the first time. Never seen the trailers, and I got to see the genuine reaction of Hulk showing up, and it was just pure glee. Like Jenna lost her shit, and I'm like, that is so cool that there are going to be a ton of people that for the first time are just watching the MCU, and then they get this moment. And I think that it's such a wise call looking back on what they did of separating Thor and Hulk from the rest of them, because everyone else was in Civil War. Everyone else is on Earth dealing with that fight. If either Hulk or Thor were in that fight, it would have looked very different. That airport would have been destroyed. Like it just would have not worked. So having them have this fight not at the same time, but like, you know, kind of meanwhile, I thought was really damn cool.
Well, don't forget also that this comes hot off the heels of Sokovia when they had that rivalry. Right, which is why remember they were like, there's that great shot in Avengers, Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, where they down the thing and he punches him. It's like they waits the perfect beat and then he punches Thor. I think that was from that, right? Or maybe that was from Avengers 1.
Avengers 1. Oh yeah, it must have been 1 because 1 was him. He did the thing to Loki and then he does it. Yeah.
All that stuff is super funny. They have that rivalry, and then I totally forgot. I was like, wait, how did Hulk get on this planet again? I forgot that he
got this little
witch. Got in his head, and then he destroyed everything and the Hulkbuster and all that stuff. And he had to get his little ship, and he just took off. All that stuff is great. It's kind of fun going back and seeing and remembering all that stuff. Anyway, he goes, man, lots happened since I last saw you. I lost my hammer like yesterday, so that's still pretty fresh. And then he goes, Loki, look who it is. And Loki, of course, is just terrified because he's remembering that's the last time he saw the Hulk when he got fucking utterly destroyed by him up in the penthouse. But the Hulk ain't having it, man. He's all about that champ life. And they get it on. Thor gets knocked into the back wall. This is where we see those cool little pieces that it's built into the back wall of structural.
Dude, awesome! Just like I love that swing, Nick. Like when he gets that massive hammer, it's like the perfect timing of Hulk just jumping at him, and he just pulls the hammer out, boom, and fucking knocks him against the wall. Like they have such great choreography in this to keep it visually interesting. It's already interesting the fact that you have two of the strongest Avengers fighting each other, but they just find a way to kind of amp up the entertainment factor. And I think all of this is like perfectly paced to have one of them look like they're gonna lose, and then we have it all culminate with the lightning there, kind of like pop up when he gets flashbacks to Odin on the hill and the doof. Like I love that shit. I think this whole thing is just kind of paced out perfectly.
And it's also cool too that like this movie does such a good job of adapting multiple comic storylines into one thing. Like it's the Ragnarok storyline, it's the Contest of Champions storyline, and like elements, like major elements of the Planet Hulk storyline. And it's just cool that they really did a good job of taking all that, which is very serious shit, and making it so lighthearted, but kind of all work together. Like it, I'm often surprised at how well the plot of this movie works, where we're getting this Thor Hulk fight, and it totally makes sense with how this movie ends with Asgard getting destroyed.
Before he can finish the fight, of course, the Grandmaster realizes that he's actually winning, and so he uses his remote control to paralyze Thor, and then Hulk jumps about 1.5 miles into the sky. And I love that Valkyrie is watching from her ship, which always gives me anxiety because I'm like, don't fall, but she'll probably survive.
She's got nothing to live for, man.
Yeah. And then you see Hulk just kind of pop up, just like the Batman.
Great shot.
And then just go all the way down and just slam. And you see, it's so beautifully done too. Because if you watch, you see his hand POV. His hand kind of comes up to stop the blow for 1 second, and it just lights out. Right. We cut back over. We cut back over to Hela. She enlists Scourge to be her elite executioner, and they begin their conquest of the realms. But the sword is missing from the Bifrost, and they got to find that first. Heimdall. We catch back up to him, and he's got cool long hair now, and he saves a group of lost Asgardians in the woods, and takes them back to a secret stronghold with the rest of the refugees. Meanwhile, Thor wakes up completely shirtless. And it would be a Thor movie if we didn't have a shirtless at least one. And true. He is fucking cut in this. And this is what I'm talking about here, Andy. We take Thor. This is why this is the perfect blend of the Thors. We take the bulk of Thor 1, like how big he was, and the definition from Thor Dark World, sandwich those together with some very, very, very low rise, like leather pants, and bada bing, bada boom, you get Thor Ragnarok.
Is it?
I mean, the only thing they could do better than this is have him completely naked and we see his butt. And I doubt they'll do that, guys.
Is it possible to like?
Is
it possible to put a high-rise pant on this man? I don't know if he allows it in his contract.
No, I don't think it's a matter of allowing it in his contract. I think his abs don't allow it.
Yeah, the pants.
You try to pull it up, the abs are so strong they push the.
Yeah, they push right back down.
Yeah. Physics, right? Physics and scientists are still trying to figure out how to make it work.
Oh, it's tough. Well, let me know when they figure that out. Because I know you have a subscription to Popular Mechanics. Of course, I love this, by the way, because this is just where the champions hang. This is Thor's like penthouse, or not Thor's penthouse, Hulk's penthouse, and he's just having a bath, and he's completely naked, and we see a big old Thor booty, and he's got that same like just tautness to it. You're like, cool, somebody figured that one out.
Gonna get to you and that booty.
Exactly. He throws on his armor and let's see. Hulk crashes. He's like, what happened? He was like, I crashed on the planet in the Quinjet. And he looks down. He's like, oh, the Quinjet. We see his butt. And then he calls him baby arms, and Thor tries to leave but gets shocked.
You're a bad friend.
Yeah, bad friend. Thor calls to Heimdall to help him, and they communicate through their cool golden eyes. Heimdall. By the way, I love that there's a line in this, I think, where he's like, that he can see everything in the universe. I'm like, what a cool power. What a cool power.
It's pretty cool.
Heimdall shows him the fate of Asgard, and he wants to evacuate, but he tells Thor to go. He's like, well, I got to get back to, I don't know how to get out of there. He's like, just pick a door. Which one? He goes, the biggest one you can find. Go through whatever the fucking thing is that you can see in the sky, and go through that. Because he can see.
I also love that Heimdall in this movie like gets some things to do. I don't think they're always the most interesting parts of this movie, but I love the idea of him using the sword as a weapon.
Yeah.
Like it's just so fucking sick. Cause like for 2 movies, it was just a, kind of like a key more than anything. But like him using it and how big it is like, that's dope as hell. And Idris is sick.
Of course. The next day, Thor calls in Valkyrie for help under the guise of Hulk calling her. He tells her that Odin is dead. And he's got to stop Hela. And he's like, I'm putting together a team. And she's like, listen, I've already faced off against Hela, and it did not go very well. That is how all the Valkyries died. I think this is the point where we get that beautiful imagery that we see.
Her and Loki are talking about
Loki,
yeah.
Oh, that's okay. That's later. Sorry, that's later. When,
you can put it here, though. Why not?
Incredible. Thor takes the opportunity to lift the remote from her and take the little stupid dart off his neck. Of course, he was kind of conning her. He's getting a little smarter here, Thor, not trusting as much.
I also want to shout out just a part that the first time watching it, my dad laughed so hard at Hulk just bouncing the ball against the wall because it's such a dude thing to do. Like you have a ball, you're gonna find a way to fucking have fun with it.
Yeah,
that part made my dad laugh really hard. I was like, you know what? That's a justified place to laugh. Good job, Dad. That's really good humor right there.
I'm glad you approve of your father.
Just a dude playing with a ball. It's fun as hell.
But I also love that mid monologue as Valkyrie's like, listen, I can't go back. That's too much. Thor's like this. You got to go back because that's what heroes do. And he takes the ball and he hurls it against the glass as if to break it, and it only cracks the glass and then comes back and ping pongs off his head and just knocks him down. And without missing a beat, again, Chris Hemsworth, 10 out of fucking 10, pops back up and he's like, oof, grabs the ball and just throws it through again. And
Yeah,
they both run out.
And they do such a good job with this in many points of this movie where they are purposefully building up the music to set you up for the silly part where, you know, the rug is pulled from under you. And I think when a lot of directors and just editors and movie makers try to attempt humor like this, it doesn't always necessarily land. But I think the combination of just Taika and Chris Hemsworth's timing, I think all of it works out so perfectly, because we have it happen later where the music it's building up and then like something stupid happens and everybody laughs, but it just works out so great here. And I wish that like I know that it's not easy to succeed in that sort of slapsticky humor.
Thor gets the Quinjet before Hulk because Hulk doesn't want to leave, and we get some of the best callbacks ever as he tries to activate the Quinjet. And the voice comes over and says, welcome, voice activation required. And he says, strongest Avenger. And she's like, access the night. He goes, strongest Avenger. And she goes, access the night. He goes, Point Break. And it lets him in. And guys, come on. That is so funny. And it's so funny. What was that? Avengers when he called them Point Break one time. That was it. Like they never made mention to it again. It's so fucking funny.
But you like it's nice to know that. That's what he did that one time, and then in all their adventures we didn't get to see, he still kept doing it.
He kept calling it Point Break.
I love just how Stark is in this movie without being in this movie. Like there's this
so
line,
dude. Every time Bruce Banner pulls down the pants, like he walks in and sees Loki, he's like, oh, and it's just like this, like not nervous tick, but like it's totally doing it.
Of course, unfortunately, Hulk comes in and destroys the Quinjet because he's freaking out. He doesn't want to leave. And then that pops up a message on screen from Nat, who is telling him to come home. And of course, that calms him and he turns back into Banner. And lo and behold, he's like, dude, how long? He's like, what the hell's going on? He's like, you've been gone for a while. You've been Hulk for a really, really long time. Banner accesses the computer and it replies, welcome, strongest Avenger. Another little beat of comedy there because they have that rivalry. Then Grandmaster puts out the word to find them and they sneak out in some of Tony's clothes. Grandmaster puts Loki and Valkyrie in charge of finding Thor. Why he would do that me on me, but I guess he trusts them. They fight, and Loki pulls a Vulcan mind meld to see. This is where we get that image of the dead Valkyrie and her fighting, and her being the last person standing. Great,
dude. It's just so good. It's like I love that effect. Like if anyone knows what it is, please let me know in the comments, because where the light is kind of just constantly spinning. And it like kind of it can make one face look like a bunch of different faces because of how the light's hitting it. Like that's what they have going for this entire scene. So everything is being lit, and so it's like constantly cycling around, but it's cool as hell.
Yeah, they use like we talked about it the last time we did, but I watched a couple of featurettes showing how they did this scene specifically, and yeah, they have a insanely good slow motion camera with just lights that are rotating around the whole set. So you're getting like the framing, I guess like the framing and the frames per second you're getting are slower than what the lights are doing. And it just has this really dope ass sort of effect. I think Greg just slacked Nick something and Nick made a funny face.
No. We're just strategizing.
Hey Andy, I'd like
strategizing. Great.
I'd like something from you, all right? And it's called not being a fucking narc, all right?
Why don't you relax?
If I needed you in this communication, I'd go and loop you in on the old Morse code, but I'm not, all right? So turn your dial up on this one, little guy.
Strategizing is the perfect word for me to go. Like Tim and I had the same visceral reaction, and Nick said we're strategizing.
It's just it's not fear. It's like disappointment.
Dread. It's called dread. Anyway, Banner is scared the hell that Hulk is going to come back and be lost forever. Valkyrie saves them from the crowd and tells them she wants to be on the team, and the team's official name is the Revengers. Hilarious. They spot the Devil's Anus and decide to steal a ship that can make it there, but the only one that anyone knows of that they have access to is the Grandmaster ship. But they'll need a distraction, and Thor knows just the thing. We got to start a revolution. So they break out Korg, Meek, and the rest of the prisoners. Thor and Loki break into the hangar and have a great talk about their differences. This is by the way, is great because this really is like kind of the sort of ending. This movie is the ending of their brotherhood, right? Because next time we see him, like Loki just basically gets killed. So this is kind of the culmination of their story together.
What's really funny too, and this is just how movies and time kind of work with us, where as time passes, we kind of just fill in gaps. But watching these movies back to back to back, it's funny how, and I guess we did skip out on Avengers, but Loki's pure evil in Avengers. Like he's not redeemable at all.
Right.
I'm surprised how I feel like Loki and Thor's relationship is best in this movie. And I feel like even then, it's not what I think of it being, having seen Loki now, the show, and having seen like even the beginning of Infinity War and stuff. Like there was a lot of goodwill earned in about a couple hours worth of time between Loki and Thor here, where, I mean, even we'll get to it later, but like Loki betrays him again in this movie, you know, and it's like,
but I love that because the growth is Thor knows it. He knows it's going to happen because he accepts his brother for who he is. And he even says that he's like, life is about growth. It's about change, but you just want to stay the same. You'll always be the god of mischief, but you could be more. And that is such a great thing to say to your brother. But it's not said with ire. It's said with love. He's just like, I love you. I accept you.
Disappointment too.
I know what you're going to do. I know what's going to happen. I can get the better of you because you are who you are. And that's who you are. They of course get chased to the anus, and Valkyrie fucks a lot of shit up. This is a great scene, and I forget that it's mostly just Valkyrie fucking bouncing between all the planes, just screwing everything up. And Thor's like, I should go help her, right? Yeah, I'll go help her.
This scene to me is, I didn't say in the beginning, it's another one of my lower points of the movie, and I think again that's a testament to the quality of this movie, where I think that this is a very fun scene, but with how fun and over the top this entire movie is, this jumping from ship to ship and the kind of a ship chase scene kind of just feels more like a means to an end, as opposed to like it being like as fucking 10 out of 10 as every other action scene in the movie. And even the jokes, like some of them are funny, like it's the orgy pleasure ship. Like I'm definitely laughing, but I feel like this is probably the longest section of the movie that I'm not laughing out loud or wowed by something I'm seeing.
I can see that. Yeah.
Of course, Korg and the Revolution find Loki and ask him if we're about to jump on this ginormous ship. And I love that they use the word ginormous because I'm the only other person I know that uses that word. Hela wants Scourge to be the to execute people until they find the Bifrost. And then the Revengers arrive on Asgard. Thor tells them to split up. He'll deal with Hela while Valkyrie and Banner get everyone off safely. Valkyrie suits up with a big gun, and Thor squares off against Hela. Heimdall leads all the Asgardians across the Rainbow Bridge, but they run into Fenris, which is a giant wolf on one side, and Hela's Army of the Dead on the other. And she says, Hela says to him, so simple, even a blind man could see it, as she cuts out his eyes as they're fighting. Now you remind me of Dad, she says. Fenris, of course, won't go down. So Banner makes a choice, and he jumps out, and he's like, I'm going to turn back into the Hulk, even though I might not be Banner ever again. This is a sacrifice I'm willing to make, and it's very, very heroic, especially since Valkyrie doesn't know he's Hulk, and it's like this big real moment. And then he jumps, and then he bounces off the goddamn.
Doesn't even bounce.
It's just a thunk.
And that noise, and the fucking wolf stops and like pushes him with his nose.
Effects. God, it's so good. But of course, as Fenris, as the wolf is about to attack them, he turns and he grabs the tail and he starts whipping it out as the Hulk and kicks ass. He watches as Thor watches as people all get overpowered by the army, and Valkyrie's ship crashes on the other end of the Bifrost. Korg and Meek save Heimdall and get everyone aboard the ginormous ship. And then she says, then we get the great scene. Hela goes, you see, you never stood a chance. I'm not a queen or a monster. I'm the goddess of death. Tell me, brother, what were you the god of again? And it's that way she says it in her voice. And we cut over to the plains of Norway, and Thor has the out-of-body experience. And his dad tells him, listen, Asgard is not a place. This could be Asgard. Asgard is where our people stand. Those people need your help. And he says, I'm not as strong as you. And he says, no, you're stronger.
God, and Anthony Hopkins is just killing it still. Like,
crushing it.
God, he's so good.
And we cut back to it, and we repeat the line, tell me, brother, what were you the god of again? And his eyes light up, and a massive bolt of thunder from the fucking sky comes and blasts her off the tower they're standing on as war drums beat. And it just kicks up.
But it cuts, and you see Loki. Like, I love that it shows Loki's smile.
Smile. It's so... And I tell you what, a young Nick Scarpino just has a smile with Loki from ear to ear, because we get that great, beautiful shot, the same sort of like Italian Renaissance shot of him just profile, just dominating these guys in the skies. everything after that, this is my only criticism of it, is I'm like, this is great. But then everything he does after that, I'm like, it's pretty cool. There's some cool shit here, but it can't possibly live up to him just fucking shooting up into the sky and coming down and wrecking these guys.
I love every single piece of choreography on this bridge. As long as the camera is tracking with him and we just see him use the lightning in every single way imaginable.
Yeah.
Him using Pikachu's down B.
Yeah,
him
he has that one thing where
fucking
all of them
rolling
get
full-
jacked.
like, oh, it is. I fucking am just in love with this. I love that we get Loki flipping his little hat. We got freaking Valkyrie coming through in her
And the fireworks in the background.
Fireworks in the background.
From
we
the
have
orgy
Hulk
ship.
wrestling freaking Fenrir, dude. Oh my lord. This shit is so sick.
Badass.
Every aspect of this whole sequence, they just really kind of sat down for a night and were like, what are the possibly coolest ways that we could make every shot of this look amazing? And
Absolutely.
Again, I didn't really necessarily think of that this whole time. You think of it because of the Thor stuff, and you think of that awesome wide shot of him sort of floating down. But yeah, Valkyrie walking in slow-mo with fireworks behind her.
So casual.
It's all so badass and so well
it.
done.
God, I love that.
Tamor just sent me this. This is a print that he bought today.
That's
So
incredible.
that's dope as hell. I got a question for you guys before we move on from this section,
Sure.
because it is the greatest section of all time. We're gonna see Thor: Love and Thunder soon. We have heard "Sweet Child of Mine," a couple different versions of it in the trailers, similar to how we heard "Immigrant Song" in the trailers for Ragnarok. Normally, movies don't use the song from the trailers in the movie. My gut says we're gonna hear "Sweet Child of Mine."
Oh,
I
yeah.
think this
yeah,
movie
big
starts
time.
off with Sweet Child of Mine.
My question is, do we get it twice?
Yeah.
And my second question is, do we get war drums leading into it the second time? Do we get some equivalent of like they have that rise? Because I think that's what really makes the second time in this one like that, like insane. I can't believe they're doing this moment. Andy Cortez.
A pizza bet, right? Pizza bet.
Ooh.
Most dangerous of
Everybody call
bets.
your parents pizza bet. I do think we are going to get it twice because I think playing Immigrant Song twice kind of felt unique and weird and a weird choice, but it's like it's a bold choice and it's Taika, so we accept it. And I think that that's going to be Taika's like Pharrell starting every song with 4 beats. The song starts. That's like Pharrell always does that. I think that's going to be Taika's thing of like we're going to have two songs that we're going to have the same song played twice in various different ways. And I would go ahead and I'll like a square pie, guys, for those of y'all who disagree with me.
Cool. Greg, send him a square pie, guys.
I
Of
didn't
course,
argue-
we get the sort of resolution of this whole story. Thor finally realizes Asgard's not a place to people. This was never about stopping Ragnarok. It was about causing Ragnarok. And I think you want to talk about all the humor of this movie. You want to talk about all the performances. They're all great. They're all 10 out of 10. But I think the reason why this movie works and doesn't feel hollow at the end is because it's a great setup. In order to save his people, he has to destroy their world and cause Ragnarok. I think it's so clever and so well
Cool
done
concept.
and so simple and right in front of you. And of course, he sends Loki off to grab the skull. And sure enough, Surtur is reborn. And she says, whatever game you're playing, you can't defeat me. And he goes, no, but he can. Points to him, and Surtur comes up. He's like, I'm going to kill everything. He starts destroying everything. And then Hela's like, oh shit, I got to take after him. And he just destroys her. But not before Hulk decides to punch him in the face. And he's like, no, Hulk, what are you doing? For once in your life, don't smash.
And that's another comedic moment where it's, it's two characters talking very seriously about something, framed with the comedic beat of a body going "Argh!" from behind them, flying over them, and they realize, oh fuck, Hulk is going over there trying to fight, punching him in the horn, kind of.
Yeah.
It's very, very well done. But I think my favorite part of all this is Hela lifting out of the waters in that shot for again the sideways profile shot, shooting these gigantic fucking daggers. It's so badass looking, man.
She, of course, gets stabbed right through the face as Surtur stabs the entire planet through its heart. Everyone's, of course, aboard the ginormous ship, and Korg and Meek and everyone are watching, and Korg says, the damage is not bad. As long as the foundations are strong, we can rebuild this place. It will become a haven for all people and aliens in the universe. And then it explodes. It goes, oh, yeah, no, those foundations are gone. Sorry. Great beat. And then Thor, we cut back over, and that's the resolution. Thor sports a new eye patch and makes amends with Loki. Later, as the ship travels through space, Thor walks amongst his people and takes a seat on his throne. And then he says, so, where to? And then he goes, hey, Meek, where are you from? And then Korg goes, "Oh, Meek. Oh, Meek's dead. I stepped him on the bridge. I just feel so guilty. I've been carrying him around." And then Meek stares and he goes, "Oh, Meek, you're alive. He's alive, guys. What was your question again, bro?" And then they go, "Earth it is." Boom. That is the end. We get, of course, the mid-credit scene where Thor and Loki are talking as Thanos' massive ship arrives, which is where we'll see them next in Infinity War. And then the end credit sequence, which is a perfect fucking like just icing on the cake. The Grandmaster comes out of his ship after the revolution and says, "I gotta say, I'm proud of you all. This revolution has been a huge success. Yay, us. Come on, pat on the back. Pat on the back. Me too. I had a big part in this. Can't have a revolution without someone to overthrow. So you're welcome." And it's a tie.
Oh, God.
And then he goes to Earth to live with the guy.
God.
It's
You're
so
welcome,
crazy
and it's
to
a
think
tie.
about. Like this leading into Infinity War, like, and how brutal Infinity War is. Like 5 minutes after Asgard explodes, they have to deal with this. It's like, oh my God. Andy, hit me with a little thing I like to call haiku in review.
7 syllables in the middle. You need 5 for the first and last line. If it's not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme. Haiku in review.
Don't run.
Haiku in review.
Please don't run.
You can go to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like a whole bunch of you did, to write your reviews in haiku form. Let's start with Zaid Wilson. Zaid, which is a great name, says, "For Odin, Thor mourns, and through eternal flame, Asgard is reborn."
Oh, that's beautiful.
That was great.
Neo Nugget, another good name. "A wig of real hair. Stan Lee made it look damn good. Still wigging out, yo."
Damn. Always
He's
be
wigging
wigging
out in heaven.
Always be wigging out.
Eric Meyer says, "This Thor is no bore. Loved Hulk's roar and Asgard lore. Now bring on Thor 4.
Wow. That took the rhyming to the next degree. That's great.
Second level.
We got 2 more. Joel's Vornado says, "Movie is so fun. If Hulk wasn't in trailer, it'd be number 1.
It's true. What a
Interesting.
huge surprise.
Mr. Hoax 182 says, "Korg leads all along. Piss off, Ghost. He's freaking gone. Rockman does no wrong." And now let's take a look at the rankings. Where did we put Ragnarok? Where are we sitting with it? Kev, if you could bring those up, that'd be pretty cool. Thank you so much. So yeah, currently number 1, we have Endgame, 2 Infinity War, 3 No Way Home, 4 Homecoming, 5 Civil War, and 6 Ragnarok. Right above Winter Soldier at number 7. I feel pretty damn good about that, y'all. I feel like we're in that tier. Everything we just mentioned, and I'd say even below that a little bit, is like the true S tier of the MCU. And I think that when we start getting like the high up there, it's like, yo, there's so much more that goes into them than just, oh, they're a movie. Like they're total events. But I think Ragnarok as a movie has all of the best aspects of 1 through 3, just in different ways. 1 through 3 being Endgame, Infinity War, No Way Home, because it has those like hype moments over and over.
I would agree. I think it's perfect on the list. I think it's. I mean, thankfully we can't change them because we already had the mugs printed. But I think it's great.
The mugs were very important.
Personally, I would still put it over Homecoming, but again, it's like this top tier is just so strong. Rivaled only by Jurassic Park franchise. The worldlies out there.
All those worldies. Any final thoughts, Greg Miller?
I mean, it just speaks to how strong the MCU is, that we love this movie this much, and you're still like, oh, God, I'd love it to be in the top 5, but the top 5 is so solid, where it's like, and
it's a movie that doesn't, I think, in a similar way to where Homecoming is ranked for us right now, it's a movie that doesn't need the gigantic team-up spectacle in order to be as strong as it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great
we get it anyways, right? Like we get the team of him and Hulk and Valkyrie and Loki. Like it's great.
Oh, but I mean,
this movie doesn't.
I expect Loki to be in a Thor movie. I think Valkyrie is like the only addition, but I guess like we don't have Captain America and Iron Man showing up to do so. You know, like I think it's so special that it holds up on its own without an Avengers big sort of massive team up moment.
Yeah, I think the one thing this doesn't have that the other ones ranked above it do have is like the real kind of make you cry emotional type moments. Like, I feel like this one has emotional stuff, especially with Odin. But I don't think-
Odin's where it is, right? That's where
Yeah.
I think the emotional stuff is. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
anyways, we're really excited. We're going to watch Thor, Love and Thunder, and we're going to be putting out our ranking next week here on In Review. If we get the opportunity to do a spoiler-free screencast, we're going to be doing that as well if the embargoes and all that stuff line up. But until next time, I love you all.
Have a marvelous,
day.
Thank
Day
you.
night.